You're listening to Dramas Over Flowers with Saya, Anisa, and Borama. Hi, Saya.
Hi, Anisa. Will anybody notice that we changed it up?
Yeah, email us if you hate that.
Borama will notice.
Yeah. Borama will notice. We can
I was
start
away for
adopting
5
that
minutes
format.
and you changed the podcast.
We can start adopting that format for like when there's only two of us and see how people like it.
That would be fun. Got to keep things fresh.
Yeah. So today we just wanted to record a little yak about what we've been watching lately.
It's a breezy yak.
Yes. Just kind of some quick overviews of a bunch of stuff we've been watching because we have like 10 dramas to talk about. So, Saya, let's talk about what's kind of like the buzzy drama. I feel like this is the buzzy drama, Castaway Diva.
I think so.
섬 오카라고 해요. 내내 소원이었어요. 언니랑 같은 무대에서 노래하는 거. 다가 좀 한심하죠. 그것이 포도 차럽고 그 개념 없고.
좀 아니고 꽤.
다들 만에 하나도 애까마까라 가든지.
세상 모든 확률은 50대 50 아닌가? 아직 모르잖아.
걱정 말어.
오늘은 네 무대야.
기적을 만들어 보자.
It's Park Hre-ryun's return to screenwriting since, is it Startup? Was that the last thing?
I think Startup
she
was the
did?
last thing she did. We are noted lovers of I Hear Your Voice on this podcast.
And
which
Pinocchio.
Is and Pinocchio. But I think
And-
I hear her voice
yeah.
is my favorite one that she's done, though, bar none.
You know, I've rewatched Pinocchio quite a few times at this point, by which I mean maybe twice. And I rewatched While You Were Sleeping last year. I think I talked about it in an earlier episode. And those dramas are really good. I think I've rewatched those more than I've rewatched I Hear Your Voice. I Hear Your Voice is kind of like a gold standard, like the gold standard that put Park Hre-ryun on my map. And because those two dramas sort of came in quick succession after I Hear Your Voice, at the time, I didn't appreciate them because I kept comparing them to I Hear Your Voice. But like now, as time has passed and I've rewatched them without having sort of a lurking memory of I Hear Your Voice, they're just so good. Like While You Were Sleeping is so good. And I missed that the first time around. I'm also probably one of the few people left in the universe who hasn't watched Startup, so I don't have that, people have this sort of...
I am also one of those people.
You're right.
Yeah.
But like that everyone has that, what do you call it? That sort of that Pavlovian programming that we got after a series of Answer Me's with the Who's the Husband, and it's like, who's really the lead? I know all about it, but I haven't experienced it, and it's interesting how that has perhaps recurred in Castaway Diva.
I actually didn't even think about that, but that's a very interesting point. Is this her new thing?
It could be. I hope it's not.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that, to be quite honest. We can talk about that. So we've seen 4 episodes so far. Castaway Diva stars Park Hyun-bin and 2 male actors who I don't really have a strong relationship to, so I can't remember their names.
I actually know both of. I mean, Cha Kyun is Vix's N, who you.
No,
you know him
you're
for
right.
his
I
Sassy Go-Go.
I like N very much. I just haven't seen him in a while, but I have a lot of fondness for him. That's true. That's true. I don't think I've seen the other actor
that
in
he
anything.
can act. Che Jin-hyuk, he was in Sisyphus, I think.
Is he the one with the blonde hair? What's his name?
Jason.
Son or something?
Yeah, him.
Yes,
That was
okay.
the one.
That's why he
very
looked familiar.
lovable.
Yeah, he was very lovable in that. Yeah. N has always been able to act.
Do you think so? Because I remember him from Sassy Go-Go and he couldn't really... He had what he could do. He didn't have range. And I think what he has now that he didn't have before is range. Like, he does feel like... He has learned how to act
This
better.
is maybe true. Yeah. I think what he has always had is like charisma and screen presence, even when he was, going on reality shows as as part of his like idol career.
Yeah.
He's always been one of those one of those performers where I'm like instantly interested in what he's doing just because he does have that he just grabs you. But getting a little sidetracked. So basically, it's a story. It starts out in their high school years, but Park Hyun-bin's younger version, which is played by Ire,
she's
who
so
is
good. I love her.
Amazing. Yeah, I loved her also as the younger version of the heroine in. Oh my gosh! Why can't I remember her
I know
name?
which one.
Yeah.
Hello,
me,
you, hello,
or hello,
me.
it's me. Yeah. She was brilliant in that. Also, she's just so good.
The first time I saw her was in Super Daddy Yol, which I think at this point is like a 10-year-old drama.
Yeah, that was a
drama
journey.
was trash.
That was
She
traumatic
was great.
to watch. She was great though. Yeah, I was there with you watching it and just being like, "What the heck is happening? I am so upset." That was one of those where like I watched it for the actors and I like really tried hard to get to the end. I don't know if I actually got to the end, but it was tough.
Yeah,
so this drama is about like these. Basically, you have these two kids who they live on this island. They have bad family situations, both of them, and they try to escape from that. And long story short, she ends up being castaway on an uninhabited island, and she gets found 15 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And her dream was always like she had this singer that was always like her idol, who also was from that island, and her dream was like to become a singer because she's like very talented, but also it was like an escape for her from like her bad family situation. And so when she gets rescued from the island, she once again tries to achieve that dream and reconnect with that singer that she idolized. And then there's these two guys who rescued her, and like one of them is, the person that she had a connection with when they were kids, and who like tried
or at least
to help
this is
her
what we
escape.
suspect. The drama has
Right,
not
the drama has
confirmed or
not
denied
revealed
anything
this.
yet.
But it seems pretty clear.
It's fairly evident.
Yeah. So that's kind of the overview. Like, what do you think so far? We've both seen the first 4 episodes. So how are you feeling so far?
The childhood portion was really, really good.
It was
really
amazing.
lovely.
Yes, I agree.
I admit that I do have a little trouble with the kind of she survived 15 years alone on this deserted island, and like
there is quite a bit of like,
but it's okay. Like
disbelief, but you just have to kind of
yeah. I can suspend the disbelief, but I'm very consciously suspending my disbelief because I'm sitting there thinking my thoughts and like shush.
Right,
Let's
you're
move
like,
on.
oh,
It's
your
the story.
skin is
Just
so
accept it.
beautiful for somebody who's been like in the sun for 15 years.
Or the fact that she was able to build an entire
right. Just with like floating trash. She has like a full wardrobe.
And a
like,
water filter system and all of that. But the thing is, I'm interested, and it hasn't sort of got that deep into the drama yet, that what if by that you're intending to show that the character is extremely clever and resourceful. I'm not sure that it's showing that yet, although it's beginning to, like, we're beginning to get a sense of Mocha having a lot of emotional intelligence despite a sort of a lack of adult socialization. And I wanted to dig more into that. And I'm worried that it's going to focus on this mystery of which boy is really the childhood friend, at the expense of giving more sort of emotional insight into Mocha. But so far it's doing a good job. And I feel a little bit unfair saying this because I am really enjoying it. But it does require this conscious suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, I would agree with you that like episode 1 was nearly perfect. I mean, it hurts so good, like what they're going through as children, the way they try to escape, what happens when they're trying to escape, and like it's just like everything. And even though
and just the friendship between the two of them.
Friendship, like the dialogue, of course, this woman is amazing at dialogue. Like, and the way I know it's like kind of ridiculous that she's been able to build this home for herself on the island. Yeah. But even the way that's revealed is like really cool. It's really fun. There's a lot of like amazing visual details in that are just like enjoyable to see, just seeing how she's created her home. And, like you can kind of imagine what has like by seeing that one scene. And like later on in the drama, you get more glimpses of like what happened while she was there. But like that kind of gives you like a sense of time having passed.
Yeah.
And I think that was like really well done.
And this is also like, you know, the drama it makes me think a lot of is 30 but 17, which is, you know, that sense of kind of like a proxy for time travel, but not.
Yeah.
Like, your body has aged, you've existed, but you haven't been conscious. But it's also different because she actually has been alive and awake for all of those 15 years.
Yeah.
So it's not quite appropriate to say, oh, mentally she's like a 16, 17-year-old girl? Because she's not. She has lived. She hasn't been in like a social environment, and that's different. But she has dealt with her own, you know, her own situation, and her psyche has obviously had to evolve to deal with this incredible isolating situation. And we get little glimpses of that in flashback.
Right. So she's
in the
kind
later
of
episodes.
young for her age and old for her age at the same time. Because
Exactly.
on one hand, she's been through something that like most people will never experience in their whole lives. And it's so hard. And she's had to show a kind of like toughness and like strength to get through that like many people will never even have to approach in their life. And then on the other hand, she hasn't gone through any of these like sort of quote unquote normal milestones of life that a woman who is like 31 or 32 years old would have already gone through at this point. And so all of that is like completely new to her, and she's having to learn all of that from scratch. So that's really interesting.
But I do like how it does actually, it gives us both sides. It shows us her acting with this sort of bravado and cheer, while also revealing that bravado and cheer is a result of like a deeper emotional thing. So, I mean, I do trust Park Hre-ryun to give us the correct emotional delivery on the character. And Park Eun-bin, of course. Like, you can put a very complex character in her hands and she'll bring it all.
Yes. Yes.
I'm just cautious about this whole male lead thing. But I think once it gets over the hiccup of spitting out who it is, then we'll get the story. I don't want it to linger on that.
Yeah. So can we can we take a couple minutes just to go into the spoilers for the first 4 episodes? Because there's a couple things that I want to talk about. One is related to what you're saying, which like I'm pretty sure by the end of episode 4 who the male lead is.
I think everyone's sure by the end of episode 3.
And what is annoying me a little bit is that like the drama is pretending like it's still a big mystery.
Right.
And I'm like worried that this end of episode 4 moment, which like you think it could be a big reveal, I'm worried that they're going to do that thing where like, oh, just kidding. And then he's going to make up some kind of ridiculous excuse and she's not going to find out for another like 2 weeks, like 4 episodes, which kept happening in
this
30
is only
but
12
17.
episodes though.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that
they
gives me
can't
some hope.
belabor it too much.
Yeah. Although like each episode is really long, so it's probably similar.
I don't mind the episode length,
I
surprisingly.
don't mind either, but I'm just saying like it's not necessarily that much shorter of a drama at 12 episodes because of the episode length. So it kind of still has the similar amount of space to tell the story. Yeah. But so that's one hesitation. And related to that is like as soon as I kind of figured out who the male lead was, I was not
invested in him
because I like the other one more. Like I think he's more interesting.
This is a
like he's
problem.
just more of a character. Who I assume to be the male lead, who is Bogol, is so bland and boring.
But then do you think that he's deliberately
uninteresting.
been kept a cipher just for the suspense and then
and that bothers me.
Yeah.
Like, why do that? Why not make both of them equally interesting in different ways? It's not like you don't have the talent to do this. Like, clearly everyone involved has the talent to do that. And Woo-hak is so funny and interesting and lovable. And he's like, comes off the page and he's like so invested in her journey. And like, they have that whole interaction where he's like, doesn't like to eat alone. And he brings up that term like humbap, like of like eating by yourself. She's like, there's a whole term for this. He's like, yeah, he did not exist when you went on the island. She's like, no, but like I did that,
Yeah.
that's what I did for 15 years. And she had this like whole, I love those moments the most, I think. There's also this moment where she's like sitting in the rooftop apartment with a lighter and turning it on and off.
Yeah.
And she's like, I used to spend half a day trying to make fire. And now she's like, what a futile my half days of, she's like, it's so futile. I can just like flick a switch and it turns the fire on. And you can just see that on her face. Like she feels like how wasted her time,
like the
and her
weight
life
of the lost time.
Yeah. Like that was really, I felt that really deeply. So he's such an interesting and fun character. And like, I feel like their interactions are also like full of interest and liveliness. Not necessarily romantic interest, but like they're just interesting to watch together. And he's interesting to watch. Like you're kind of interested in finding out what makes him tick. And the brother is just boring.
A cipher. Yeah. But do you think that the why of that is like maybe the purpose was to bring it to that sort of episode 4 climax because it's episode 4?
Probably. And that just kind of annoys me. So we'll see what happens next week.
We'll see, right?
I'm like...
Or this week, in fact.
Yeah. So
after we get off this call, we're both going to watch it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The other reservation I have about this drama is the way that her journey of coming back is interconnected with this pop star, Ranju, who, she's kind of like past her prime. She has vocal cord nodules. She can't sing anymore. I am really uncomfortable with the dynamic between them because she has made it like her only mission in life now to make Ranju get back to where she was and regain her career. Because once she regains her career, then Mokha can follow her dreams. But also, it's such an imbalanced relationship because she's her fan and she idolizes her and she can't see the ways in which Ranju is like
using
her and taking advantage of her. And like, I can't tell if Ranju is, I don't think it's necessarily deliberate, but she is, I mean, props to the show for making a very accurate representation of a celebrity who like only thinks about themselves. But it's weird to me that like the drama is putting the CEO, making him the villain, when in fact it's quite reasonable for him to be like, all you do is drink. You can't sing anymore. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, was he supposed to book appearances for her when she like spends her life drunk and can no longer perform?
It seems he doesn't know that she's got the nodules. So
no, she never told him. Yeah. She just doesn't. So like from his perspective, he's like, of course he's frustrated and is like trying to find a way to make the company profitable by like diversifying and having other, artists, because like, what is he supposed to do with her? Like, he can't just stay like loyal to her and the company is failing. Like, I don't necessarily think he's that much of a villain. And you can see in the past that he like staked his whole future on her. So it's not like he is a bad guy. And it's so weird that like we're supposed to be rooting for Ranju and she's like, yeah, I'll do this reality performance, but like you have to sing for me. So not only did that one original, performance that was in her voice, but now they're like doing this like long con together, like knowing that this girl has no other options and probably isn't going to be able to say no to you. Like clearly she doesn't want to do it and she doesn't feel comfortable with it. It's just that whole thing makes me really uncomfortable. I'm sure they're hopefully going to go somewhere interesting with it, but I'm just like cringing. I'm just like,
I do still find it underhanded that the CEO, he did the whole album disposal thing, and it's like...
Yeah, I'm not saying he's like great or anything, but I'm like, they are so painting him so much as a black and white villain.
Right.
Like that was crappy of him to do, but at the same time, like Ranju is not the shining angel of justice here either,
Like, I mean, we don't need to get into like the actual money mechanics of this, but the other thing that bothers me with the whole setup of Mokha singing for her is that ultimately it's fraud. When it comes out, you're all going down. Like, there's no way for that to be okay.
Also, like, it's very different from, like, singing for somebody else at this, like, regional festival versus, like, pulling this con off on a national live broadcast TV show where there are tons of, like, sound people and producers and, like, okay, maybe it happened that one time, but, like, it's still so suspicious. Like, she tries to talk and her mic isn't working. She has to take the presenter's mic. Aren't people going to figure out that she wasn't singing? My sister was like, it's so obvious. I was like, I know. It's just like, how did they think that this was going to work? It's not going to work. You're on a reality show.
Maybe it's all going to fall apart in episode 5. I kind
that's
of want it to
what I
fall apart
want.
sooner than later.
Because I'm always like with these kind of dramas that are premised on like a big lie, and usually like some kind of secret identity or some kind of big lie where like it's propping up a big portion of the plot. I feel like more often than not, the drama carries it on for too long, and it makes to the point where it like feels really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that it doesn't go on. And I feel like I didn't watch Startup, so like please forgive me if I'm making, a wrong assumption, but like I feel like that was part of the issue that people had with Startup too, is that deception went on for long enough that it like made it hard for people to root for the main couple because that lie went on for so long.
Yeah.
It's just, and like with 30 but 17 as well, like they really dragged that reveal out for so long, and it was like so unnecessary.
Like it teases it to the point where you're just annoyed. And you're like, look, we all know, we know, they know, everybody knows. Can you just spit it out?
Right. So that tension and that effect that the drama is going for is lost anyway.
Yeah, because it exhausts the audience, and like I think it's like it goes bad faith. Like there's a point you go up to where it's tension, and then there's a point where it's just disingenuous.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. So let's hope that it doesn't go there. But otherwise,
I'm watching it to the end probably anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm very invested.
I'm here for her. Yeah, and me and my sister are watching this. We've got our mom on board too, so it's going to be our next like family watch.
It's a good one for a family watch.
I think so. Yeah.
And it is like, it does have all of that sort of bright, cheerful tone as well, which makes it, again, very watchable.
Should we talk about the next drama?
저의 아침의 축복을 받으세요, 중재자님.
환자 대하는 게 좀 낯설어. 뭐 불편한 건 없으세요? 기분은 좀 어떠세요? 제가 뭐 도와드릴 건 없을까요?
뭐 없어요.
힘든 일이 뭘까요? 너무 속상해요. 여기 착한 분들만 오시는 것 같아서. 다 되셨어요.
열심히네. 야, 정답! 야, 첫 출근은 어땠어?
엄마, 나왔어.
Talking about bright and cheerful.
I mean, the
Shall we
only
talk
bright
about-
and cheerful thing about Daily Dose of Sunshine is its title.
Oh,
I
really?
will say that. Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
It's set in the psychiatric ward of a hospital. And basically the premise is Park Bo-young, who you might know and love from Strong Girl.
Who doesn't know
Bong-soon.
her?
Everybody's talking about Strong Girl, Bong-soon and Nam-soon right now, so I just referenced that. Yeah, her cameo in Nam-soon is the only thing that I've seen from that drama, and that was cute. I have to say, Bong
It
Bong.
was so cute.
Yes,
Bong Bong and Min Min.
Bong Bong and Min Min. So
I want a whole nother drama of them.
they were so good together, even if I didn't like that drama. So anyway, so she's the female lead. She plays a nurse who has just been transferred into this psychiatric ward from internal medicine. And everyone's just like, why is she here? Like, what is she doing here? Like, people don't usually transfer in like this part of their career, and especially not to this ward, because it's such a tough ward to work in, because the patients sometimes get violent. You have to be really careful how you talk to them, because some of them are dealing with delusions, and you have to like kind of walk this fine balance of like not encouraging their delusions, but then also like not denying them, because then they sometimes get agitated. Like they're dealing with like pretty severe patients for their inpatients, like people who have pretty severe disorders. So people are kind of like, why is she here? And so you kind of find out, like, why did she make the decision to transfer? And it's partly about her development as a person, but it's also kind of the patient of the week story as well, where like different, people, they kind of take one. I feel like this is one of those like kind of message dramas, which sometimes works and sometimes feels a little bit sort of preachy and didactic. Like it kind of goes back and forth, where like you can see they really have the intention to like bust myths and like misconceptions about mental illness, which is like very good and like admirable, but it's just like sometimes I feel like it kind of drags the storytelling down a little bit. But it is like really well done. It's full of like amazing veteran actors. Actually, let me just give you a list, because it's such a great cast.
I can see Yeon Jin and Jang Dong-yoon are in this.
Yes.
Does she have a love line, or is that a spoiler?
Oh my God. Sorry. So I did not even. So I'm just looking at the cast now. I did not even recognize Jang Dong-yoon. This is how different he is in this role.
The boy is a chameleon. He's so good.
Did not until this moment when I looked at his name. Okay, so Jang Dong-yoon plays Park Bo-young's best friend, like since childhood, and Yeon Woo-jin plays the male lead. He's a doctor of. He's like a colorectal surgeon. I don't know. Can't remember like the exact name for what he does, but he like treats people's colons. So they work in the same hospital, but not in the same ward. So it's like there's a lot of it's like a big cast. Lee Jung-eun, who you might know from Parasite, is an amazing character actress. She plays like the head nurse in the ward. And then there's like a bunch of other nurse characters. It's like this really fun dynamic of like the doctors and the nurses kind of like they work together, but also like the doctors have a better life, but the nurses have a harder job. So like obviously there's this tension, accurate. Right? Yeah, like very true to life, right? Of like how the doctors get all the respect, not just from society, but also even from like the patients, and they don't understand that like they might say one thing and then the nurses have to deal with like the backlash from that, and they're the ones who are dealing with the patients 24/7, and they're the ones
that doctors can't actually function without nurses.
So like there is that dynamic, and like it plays out in a few different interesting ways, which I thought was really well done. It reminds me a little bit of like Hospital Playlist, in that like if it was focused on the nurses instead. And it's not like there isn't like a friend group or like a band or anything, but just in the way that it kind of focuses on these like daily interactions between the coworkers and also them and their patients. But then you also see like their lives and their family, and so like every episode you have a patient of the week kind of, but then you also see how that connects to one of our main cast's own lives in a personal way. So it's well done, it's well written. I'm enjoying it.
I was wondering if it's anything like If You Wish Upon Me. What when you said it has that particular format with a certain messaging.
Yeah, I would say the vibe is very different from If You Wish Upon Me. It's like a more kind of, I don't want to say that If You Wish Upon Me was saccharine necessarily, but it was, I think If You Wish Upon Me was a bit more sentimental. Okay. Daily Dose of Sunshine is a bit darker. It doesn't really shy away from like the more difficult aspects of mental illness. And it also has this kind of like fantastical element of like the way that you sort of are seeing people's experiences of how their illness affects them through their eyes is like you'll see that like like water filling up around them, or like there's like a like the atmosphere changes, so it's like kind of like a little bit of like a fantastical element in order to like bring the viewer into like what that person is experiencing.
It kind of reminds me of that scene in Castaway Diva, which was really amazingly done. To go back to
similar, very similar to that scene.
It's not what I expected from a drama called Daily Dose of Sunshine.
No, I honestly knew nothing about it. I was just like, Daily Dose of Sunshine, Park Bo-young.
Plus Park Bo-young is
and then like
be
the trailer also, it does not really give you a vibe of what the drama is going to be like, because it's just like her waiting. She's like getting late. She's waiting at the bus stop, and he shows up. And you can tell that he's like interested in her, and then her best friend shows up and like is like, "Oh, you're getting late. Come on my motorbike." And that's it. So I'm like, okay, it's just like kind of like a doctor and a nurse getting together. But like it does really go deep into the patients and their lives and their illnesses and
this is also a 12 episode. So did you finish this drama?
No, I've seen 3 episodes so far.
Are you planning to finish?
I think so. It's not one of those because it feels kind of episodic. It's not one of those where you're like dying to watch the next episode necessarily, because even each episode feels kind of self-contained, and the storylines of the main characters are kind of on the back burner. Like they're interweaved with the patient stories, but it's not like a romance drama necessarily, even if like there's a romance and you kind of see that these people are eventually going to get together. It's not really the main point. But I think it will be like a good, I don't know if I want to say comfort watch, because you're dealing with some pretty
maybe a thoughtful
dark
watch.
Stuff. Yeah. But I think like it's not something that I would probably be able to binge, because it's a bit heavier, but it's enjoyable to watch. I like it. The characters are really well drawn, so you kind of like get to know. That's why I was saying hospital playlist, because you get to know like all these different people that work in the hospital, and they're kind of coming in and out.
And you can see from the cast that it's definitely in good hands.
It's an incredible cast. Yeah, it's like full of like amazing veteran character actors. You know, so
it's been ages since I've seen Yeonho-jin in anything.
And I haven't seen him in ages either, and I was like very happy to see him. You know, when you see someone after a long time and you're like, oh, Pungo, like you just see them and they're like a sight for sore eyes.
I think I saw him in Marriage Not Dating.
I think this is the first drama that I've watched since then, like fully, like not just like trying it out since then. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But he plays like this really adorable and nice character. He gets like overly involved in things, but it's because he cares so much. I like that. Yeah. He's a little goofy, but it works. Yeah.
He's good. He's got like really good comedy chops. So.
Yeah. And he gets to kind of lean into those. So I appreciate that. He's like he's like a buffoon, but then when he needs to be serious, you're like, oh, wow, this person is actually really competent and smart and like gets the job done. That kind of character.
You've almost convinced me to watch it.
Watch episode 1 and see what you think. I mean, it's like low effort. Like you're not,
I'll give it a try.
Okay.
Okay, next drama.
엄마, 아빠, 아줌마? 왜 아직 그대로야? 왜 아직도 1995년이냐고!
워터멜론 슈가 맞으시죠? 제 마음을 아주 살짝 쬐끔 살포시 얹었습니다.
아빠 유차원을 좋아해야지! 유차원 누군데?
얘 좋아하냐고? 아니, 근데 좀 재밌어. 만화책 보는 것 같아. 다음 애가 궁금해지네.
1년만 내 눈앞에 있어달라는데 그것도 못해줘?
Next drama is Twinkling Watermelon. Man, this drama is the cause of all of my problems right now. Do you know why? Because I picked it up when it was about 10 episodes in, and I just watched 10 episodes back to back, and then there were no more. And then to fill the hole of like waiting for a week for the next episodes, I started at least 3 or 4 new dramas also airing. So like, I have the same problem with every single drama I'm watching right now.
So I watched 1 episode and then I dropped this because episode 1 is like kind of a childhood story of the I'm assuming
dropped.
Well, not like definitively, but like I just never went back because I was like, I don't even like we haven't even got to the premise yet. Like we're 1 episode in, I was like, and then you have this like weird and confusing like chase scene at the end, and I don't know who like any of these people are, and it's none of the people that I've seen in like the first hour of this drama, and I was just like, I'm not really that invested.
The first episode is like it's edited weirdly as well. Like like the way the timelines
weirdly.
are,
you
know, defined. You lose the thread of it. It's not just weirdly, I think it's actually badly. And then you kind of just have to bear with it and get to the next episode, and then you'll understand.
Okay. Yeah.
I was invested in getting to the next episode.
I know. It's because it's the type of drama that you're willing to give more time than I am.
Time travel!
Yeah. For me,
it's
I'm
amazing.
like, the time travel, I enjoy them, but they have to be good to hook me, like from the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing that it took me like 12 years or something to figure out that the reason I loved all of these dramas were because I love time travel. Literally have loved it. Not even 12 years, like 30 years is how long it took me to work that out.
Yeah, you even make other dramas that are not about time travel. You're like, this is kind of like time travel. I'm like, oh, that's why you like it.
It's true.
Like, this is a case in point, Castaway Diva. You're like, this is kind of like time travel.
It kind of is.
I mean, I see your point. I see your point.
Yeah.
I was listening to like an interview with an author. I can't remember. Yeah, it was a book podcast, but I cannot remember who, so I don't want to like say the wrong thing. But she was interviewing this like really experienced romance author who's been working for a long time. And this romance author was saying that like everybody has one story that they kind of like always write or that they always connect to. And she said if you notice like certain authors, she's like, especially like if you look at romance authors who like have written a lot of books, there's like this sort of through line of like one type of story that like really speaks to them. She said for me it's like
really
A Marriage of Convenience. She's like there's always some kind of element of that relationship dynamic in my stories, whether it's like a historical drama or a contemporary, like whatever. She's like, that's like kind of the one story because there's like certain things about that plot line that just like tickles your brain or your insides in a certain way, right? Like, and so after I heard that, I was like, yeah, there is something, you know, there's like this one type of story that you kind of always gravitate towards, even if like the surface looks different, the bones of it are kind of always aligned that way.
You know, last night my sister like banged into my room as she does, and she's like, Ava, you need to watch The Red Sleeve. Watch it right now. And she's been saying this to me for like months, maybe even like years. And then she goes, it's the story where she doesn't know he's the king or the prince. And then I was like, that got me. And then I was like, get out of my room right now. I do not want to hear it because you know what I want to watch. And like, it took all of my willpower to not start it immediately because like there's some things you say it to me and I will start it immediately. Boroma usually has the knack of this. Like she knows.
She knows you well enough to be able to say that
she'll
exact
say that
thing.
one sentence and then I'm immediately gone to watch it. So yeah, I had to get rid of my sister. And now I'm feeling itchy again to start the Red
You've
Sleeve
taken care of her. You've had her
She's been taken care of. Her bones will lie in the chamber forever. Yeah. Wait, what were we talking about again?
The time travel drama that you've been watching.
Oh yeah, right.
Twinkling Watermelon. Yes.
You know, it's just such a... Again, it's one of those dramas where you do have to suspend your disbelief a little consciously. But I think you do that with all time travel. I personally have less trouble with that, but I know you are definitely in the camp of I'm very deliberately, you know, suspending my disbelief so that I can get into the story.
I think for me, like, I'm okay if this quote unquote science of the time travel doesn't work that well. I'm like, whatever. It's time travel. It's not real. I don't really care how it works. For me, I might have more trouble with like sort of the character consequences of the time travel don't make sense to me. Then I have a harder time. I'm like, you wouldn't do that. Like, that doesn't make sense. Or like, I hate this. That it takes me out.
I actually think that in Twinkling Watermelon, they deal with it pretty well because they don't go at it from like a scientific you know, this is scientific time travel, and I think most K-drama doesn't. It's a magical mechanism, and like even the mechanism that they move through. Yeah, but it's also
fine.
It's actually really enjoyable because it has this. You have this master character who's overseeing the time travel thing, and I just realized if I say anything else, it will be a spoiler. So I won't. But, you know, so basically this boy, Hang-yeol, who's played by Hre-ryun, who I thought was an idol, but he's not. He has like an idol face, but he's just a good actor and a young one. And I've seen him in a couple of other things. I can't remember what they are. But he plays this character really well. So he goes back, is it 20 years, I think, to 1995, I want to say, but I'm probably wrong. And he meets his teenage dad, his 18-year-old dad. And, so the important thing to know about Hre-ryun is that he's a coda, a child of deaf adults, so both of his parents are deaf. And his brother is also deaf, and he's the only hearing person in his family. And so this is really important to the storyline. When he goes back in time, and this you find this out in the second episode, so it's not a spoiler, I think. He finds out his dad was actually not congenitally deaf. He meets him as a hearing person. And, you know, the conceit of the drama is that, you know, father and son get together and form a rock band to impress a girl. And it's all, you know, hijinks from there. But it's actually really sweetly and sensitively told. And this relationship is really, really lovely. And it's sort of like My Perfect Stranger without the murder.
Do you feel like... Because, I mean, obviously both of us are hearing people. We don't know. I mean, I personally don't have a lot of interaction with the deaf community myself. But do you feel like this framing of like the hearing son going back in time to meet his like dad before he became deaf and getting to know him in a way that he couldn't when his dad was deaf, do you feel like there's like any ableism in that?
This is kind of where I was curious for your take on it, because I don't know if I'm good enough at reading that. But I also think, and this is my speculation because we haven't got there yet, I do feel how the story's framed Eungyul's time travel is that he thinks he's there to prevent his father's accident. And that's what he tries to do. But I have a feeling that he's not going to be able to prevent it in the end. And I feel that that would be the right way to go, for it to not end up being an ableist story. Like, he gets to have this insight into his parents' history, but also they remain in, the lives that they have, but hopefully a bit happier and a bit more, with a bit more insight into, because I think this is really the main thrust of the story, is that Eungyul doesn't know anything about his parents' history, but he doesn't realize that until he goes back in time, because the point is he, as a teenage boy, as just a human being, is focused on his life from his point of view.
Right. And that's not unique to him as a coda. It's like any kid thinks that their parents didn't exist before they were born.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is that he does also go and meet his mum, and she is deaf. And so there's this really beautiful relationship that he develops with her where, and both his parents have backstories, and there's a lot of sadness in their past, and there's a lot of like grief and loss and things that have happened to them. And there's a reason why neither of them talk to their children about their past, because it was a really awful past.
Yeah, which is also a very real thing that parents do.
So there's a kind of, this is what I think gets me a lot about this kind of premise, is that sort of, it's not wish fulfillment exactly, but it's that being able to see someone in a way you can't normally see them. If I could go back and meet my parents when they were kids, God, I would do that. Because like knowing them as who they were before they became parents, before they were like, oh man, appa, that's such an impossible, like you can't do that. We don't get to do that.
You can't.
And like many people, like now, I guess, they'll have access to things like home videos and photographs. I don't even have those. I don't have any photos of my parents in childhood or young adulthood. We don't have home videos. I don't even have them of myself. So you feel like there's this missing part of your history.
Right.
And I feel like the drama is really about, finding missing time, finding who people are, in the time that you never knew them. And I expect the ending to be that, they'll come back to the present, and even if those outward things don't change, such as, his parents being deaf, he'll have a deeper appreciation and insight for them. And also, there's the brother. And I think so far I don't feel it's been ableist in a way that I have noticed. I do think it's doing really well on not humanizing, that's not the right word, but on giving complexity and agency to both parents without making it like a pity brigade, if that makes sense. The dad falling in love with the mum, there's never a question of, but she's deaf. Not for him. He sees her as who she is. And I'm really loving it. And Barma, just let's sort of invoke her since she's not here. Her take on this was that it gets better by the week. And I'm not quite, I don't know on what measure she said that, but I just want to put it out there. Hopefully she'll come back next time and tell us what she thinks. I kind of watched them too close together to...
Yeah, no, that's... Yeah, I want to hear her take as well. I think the other sort of hesitation I have with this story is a similar hesitation I had with the movie Coda, which to be clear, I haven't watched, but some of the criticism of... Or I heard my favorite movie critic was Walter Chaw. He said that he was kind of bothered by this sort of hacky premise of like a child who loves music and a family who can't hear music. Like he was like, that's so obvious. Like, you know, it's been done so many times before, you know, of like a hearing person whose passion is music and the family member. I mean, we all watched Mr. Holland's Opus back in the, what is it, like the late 90s?
I didn't.
Oh, really? I mean, it was an Oscar-winning movie. But like, I also, and I mean, from all accounts, Coda was a lovely film, and it also starred, you know, actual deaf actors, which it was a huge, like, ridiculous that it was such a huge milestone in like in the year of, you know, whatever 2021 or 2 that it happened. But
so
like
that hasn't happened in
this drama does not. Yeah, these are all hearing actors playing deaf characters. But like, I do feel like that's kind of a lazy premise, because what it is, like that K-drama thing of like contrasts, right? They love contrasts. I think most storytellers like contrasts.
I think that's why I'm not taking it heavily, because it's a very like, this is a very natural narrative framing that you have in K-dramas.
Yeah. So anyway, but I'm glad to hear that it's sounds like a really lovely story. You've made me like want to go back to it, because also the episode 1 was so full of like sadness and it was really well told, but I was like, I feel so sad now. And we haven't even got to like the premise yet. And I was like, I don't know if I want to spend any more time.
Episode 1 was really confusing. Even I was going to drop it at that point, and then I saw that my sister was kind of obsessed with it. And then she had just like numbed it all up, and I was like, oh, that I guess that means it's good. And then I came back and numbed it all up. So.
Okay, so it's a recommendation from you then.
Yes.
Okay,
but I mean, give it until like episode 4. If you don't like it by then, drop it.
Okay, tell me about Vigilante.
내가 지옥을 보여줄게. 이건 아무나 할 수 있는 일이 아닙니다. 아주 성실하고 정의롭게 미친 놈입니다.
악인들을 향한 자경단의 단죄, 전 정말 감탄했습니다.
법이 제대로 받아내지 못한 죄값을 누군가 폭력으로 받아내고 있죠. 지금 사람들은 이런 다크 히어로를 원합니다.
타이틀이 뭔데?
비질란테.
Okay, so Vigilante literally just started airing like less than a week ago. It's 2 episodes in. I'm not sure how I picked it up. It was very by accident. It's a Disney Plus drama. It's 8 episodes. And apparently we are meant to expect Disney dramas to be really violent. I didn't know that. I've learned this now. I thought that was just Netflix dramas.
That doesn't really fit in with the Disney image, but like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Disney's K-drama offerings have actually been pretty reasonable. Like, I have a different sense of a Disney drama from a Netflix drama these days. I feel like in the Netflix ones, the violence often feels purposeless and just sort of there because it can be.
Moving is also a Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah.
Drama.
Oh, Moving.
Yeah.
That drama that Borma and I still haven't finished because we're like, this is too good. We've still got 5 episodes to go. We're saving them. Saving them for what? I don't know. Until I
watched
forget.
1 episode, and then I'm also like saving it for some inexplicable reason. So
it's going to end up being 2024, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
Oh no, we need to finish it before the year end, Jack. Otherwise
Really,
we won't be able to talk about
I
it.
feel like I have to finish Moving and watch Glory before the end of the year. Otherwise, I've like failed
Glory,
in my
I
job.
forgot about that.
I feel like if we don't watch Glory and talk about it, like people are gonna throw tomatoes at us. So okay, Vigilante.
Right. So it stars Nam Ji-hyuk, who is currently enlisted, right? Away at the army right now. It also stars like big names like Yoo Ji-tae, Lee Jun-hyuk, and, you know, people. Hasn't got to introducing all of them yet. Like Yoo Ji-tae just appeared at the end of, I think, episode 2. It's interesting. I'm surprised. I am also a little bit troubled because, you know, Nam Ji-hyuk plays a character who is a police university student. So he's not like a rookie, but he's about to become a police officer. He's also this sort of weekend vigilante who goes around punishing people for crimes that the justice system has failed to adequately punish
So he's like
perpetrators
weekend Batman?
I guess. The thing is, I also am not that familiar with Batman except as a cultural icon. I don't know the stories. So you tell me, does Batman kill people?
No. Well,
So
most of the time, the lore is that he doesn't, although there have been some adaptations in which he has killed people and fans have been like, Batman doesn't kill people. What are you doing?
Yeah.
This was like kind of like the whole Zack Snyder. Also, like with Superman, they were like, Superman isn't supposed to kill people. Like, what's going on? This isn't the Superman that I love. Anyway, that's like side DC stuff. But like, yes, in general, he's not supposed to kill people.
Okay. So spoiler warning from here. I am going to tell you what happens in the first 2 episodes. Is it spoilers if it's what happens in the first 2 episodes? Even in the first episode?
I mean,
well, listen,
I think it's good to tell people.
Right.
It's good to warn people. You can make your own decision.
It will spoil you for the first 2 episodes. So what happens is that, so we're introduced to him as punishing these perps, with various, like physically, like he punches them up, he makes toast out of them, whatever. But then he does actually he kills one, then he kills another one. And then and that's the point where I'm like, I don't know how you can, like, I don't know where the story will end, and I don't know how you'll, like, quote unquote, redeem this character, because when you've killed people, how do you come back from that? Unless it ends like the way a J-drama would, which is like, tragically and darkly.
Everything just everything's on fire. No one's happy. It's just the end.
Basically, it's just a tragedy.
Death is the answer. Yeah.
So I am.
Not all J-dramas are like that. Let's be fair.
I mean, like, don't watch Border, unless that's what you like.
This is all very valid, but like, I just found out that Lee Jun-hyuk is in this, so like.
It's good. I'm really interested in it, and I don't know why it wasn't on my radar before, and I'm definitely watching it all the way to the end. Inshallah? Do we say inshallah for these things? I don't know.
I mean, it's a plan. You can say
I
inshallah
hesitate to, whenever I say definitely, I'm like, inshallah, just in case.
Just in case,
Yeah. So this, what's his name? Namjoon plays a character called Kim Ji-young, who so the story opens with like his backstory. It's like this really horrible, his mum was abused by his dad very violently, and I think the sort of the undercurrent of the character's psyche is that this is what drives him. Like my read on it is that he loses his reason, like because the criminals that he chooses to pursue tend to be the type who have abused women or children in some way or another, and like he just loses it when
so
he
he's
sees
like
he's
because
triggered.
the system doesn't punish these people adequately,
including his own dad, including his own dad. So it kind of, I feel like maybe a red haze overtakes him. We're not given any of this visually, this is just my reading on it. Like, he's triggered and it drives him to do those things. But then I also, as I watch it, I keep having these questions like, why isn't he even wearing a mask? Why is he letting all of these people see his face?
Oh, no. Oh, no. That's where the suspension of disbelief kind of falls apart, where you're like...
Yeah.
We live in an age of like 24/7 CCTV. Most places you go and you're not wearing a mask. Come on.
Exactly.
And you're expecting to maintain your secret identity as a police officer? Like...
Exactly. And also, like, there's this journalist character who's played by Kim So-jin, who is, again, it's one of those sort of morally ambiguous, she's out for a scoop and she wants to get ratings.
One of these days, I'm going to do an episode all about how journalists are portrayed in K-dramas.
Oh, can you? I would love that episode.
Yeah, I have a lot of... I feel like I need to go and rewatch Pinocchio. You know who loves journalists? Park Hre-ryun.
Yeah.
She puts them in a lot of her stories.
That's true.
Okay, this is a blog post for another time, but it just occurred to me.
Yes, I'm ready for it. So she provides this sort of other driving force who has like discovered this pattern of like vigilante activity, and she's made it her goal to like bait him and lure him out. And so she keeps like using her news program to like put out these stories to bring him into the open so that she can get her story. And I just wonder, like, why does he keep taking the bait? It's obvious. At some point, you're just going to get caught. So that's where I came up with the whole, he's not actually, like, he's not doing this out of a sense of reason. He's doing it out of something.
My question in this kind of situation is like, is this intentional on the drama's part, or is this you kind of filling in the gaps to make it like a more smartly written drama? When
as I said, it's my read right now. We're only 2 episodes in. We'll see where it goes.
It's hard to tell in the beginning.
Yeah. And it is very violent, and I'm interested. And Lee Jun-hyuk hasn't turned up yet. I'm looking forward to him and what kind of character he'll be.
Yeah, well, he's listed as a main role.
Main character, yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, if I should watch this for Lee Jun-hyuk, just let me know.
Shall I finish it and let you know?
Like if you get halfway through and you feel like it's a good Lee Jun-hyuk, just let me know.
Do you want righteous Lee Jun-hyuk, or do you want weasel Lee Jun-hyuk?
It doesn't matter as long as he's like a big part of the story and he's acting his little butt off. Like, I don't really care what he's doing.
I think they're setting it up for what's his name, Nam Ji-hyuk, to be chased by this like elite police unit, which is like Yujite is that person so far. So I'm curious to see where Jun-hyuk will come in.
Spoiler, but in the synopsis, it calls him the main character's like admirer who helps him.
That could be cool.
So that's might be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
Sounds very morally gray, but you know.
I think that's the point.
So it's just a matter of like, is this going to be like Vincenzo, or is it going to be like, I don't know, what's a bad example?
It's a lot darker than Vincenzo.
Is it? Oh, wow. Okay.
Because Vincenzo still had room for its comedy and its love line and all of that. And this drama doesn't have any room for that.
Okay.
So far, anyway.
Okay. So it's intense. It's intense.
It's very intense, but bearably. It's not like unbearable.
Okay. Good to know.
Cool. So next up.
Next is another, I don't know if this is a Disney Plus drama or just a Hulu drama, but it's called Call It Love. I was able to see it on Hulu, but it might be on Disney Plus where you live.
이미 그 집 팔아서 아들 위해서 몽땅 투자했대.
너는 잘 먹고 잘 사는구나. 복수하자. 더도 말고 덜도 말고 내가 딱 기막혔던 만큼만 돌려주자.
나한테 설명해요. 왜 집까지 쫓아왔는지.
내가 대표님한테 관심이 많아요.
So this is basically a romantic melodrama. It's not a rom-com. It's just a romance and it's like a family melodrama as well. It stars Lee Sung-young and Kim Young-kwang. And like both of these are actors that I really love. It's more focused on her, although it is like a romantic story between the two of them, but it's about like basically she gets hired at his company in order to take revenge on him because his mother, this isn't really a spoiler because you find out like within the first episode, her dad left her mother. Not only did he cheat on his wife with the male lead's mom, but he like left them, just like took all of the family's money. And as if that wasn't enough, after he died, they got kicked out of their house, the childhood house that they grew up in, the 3 siblings. So she's just like angry beyond words. And she's like, I'm going to take revenge. So she like gets hired at this company. And then so like this is kind of the sort of this like them kind of coming across each other when they probably never should have even met. And then they fall in love, and then that obviously has
Do they
problems.
know who they are when they meet?
She knows who he is because she's targeting him, but he doesn't know who she is, right? So like, I don't want to like give too many things away, but like she enters this knowingly, and is kind of like has to balance this feeling of like your family wronged me so deeply, and I feel like you're also somewhat invested in that versus like, I actually kind of think you're an amazing person and I want you to be happy. It's hard. It's very melancholy. It's like a very emotional drama. The vibes are like very sepia. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's like,
you can even see that in the poster, right?
There's a lot of like quiet moments and like really beautiful, like just it's very character driven. It's not as plot driven. And it's all about the relationships, not just the relationships that they have with each other, but, you know, her relationship with her two siblings who she lives with. And then once they get kicked out of their house, they move into the house of her best friend. Her best friend also has his own particular relationship with each of the three siblings that are all very well drawn. And like this writer is just really good at writing characters.
Is the best friend Sung-joon?
The best friend is Sung-joon, yes.
I haven't seen him in a drama for years.
And then like there's Kim Young-gwang is best friends with his Hyung that he started a company with, who's played by Jun Suk-ho. And like he's also great. Like I've been loving him since Misang, but he always plays that kind of goofy. He just has so much, like you can give him such a dry role and he gives it so much life. And that's the same thing here. Like his role could have been one of those like one note kind of side character best friend roles. And he gives it so much dimension. We also have Hani, EXID's Hani, who was like transcendent in Idol the Coup as the male lead's ex-girlfriend who comes back into the picture. So it's just it's really good. Everyone is acting their butts off. The villain is really hateable, but it's also more about like trying to process the pain that you've been through in the past and figuring out like, how am I going to move on from this? Like, where's the target for my anger?
You said a bit earlier off mic that it's similar to Just Between Lovers, right?
Yeah, so I think initially Borma told me to watch this because she was like, really reminds me of The Interest of Love. And I think like in episode 1 and 2, it did also remind me of The Interest of Love, which we all loved. And similarly is a very like complicated relationship drama about like two people who have like prickly edges. And I think the female lead has a lot more prickly edges. He's just kind of like a bachata. He like just takes everything in. He's very quiet. He kind of just like endures. Like that's kind of his character. There's this one quote where she says like you're just like a back that's like got all the burdens of the world. Like, and he's so tall that it's like a very effective image of him walking, kind of like trying not to be as big as he is. And it just shows like how life has kind of disappointed him in a lot of ways. So she is much more prickly of a character, and their dynamic is very interesting. Like every conversation they have, you're like not breathing because it's so interesting to see them interact. So it did initially remind me of Interest of Love because of that dynamic, but like as you move through the story, it really reminded me of Just Between Lovers because there is this element of like healing from the past and also like trying to reconcile the difficult things that you experienced as a child and like being stuck in that, you know, teenager, like in that trauma that you experienced when you were like 13, 14, 15 and like then being an adult and being like, okay, but like how am I going to move on from this? Am I going to be stuck in this moment of like anger and grief for my whole life? Or am I going to find a way to be a person who's not like burdened by that for the rest of my life? How do I do that? And how can I like lean on the people around me in order to like process that together? Sorry if that's like very vague, but I don't want to like give too much away, but that's kind of, I found it really satisfying. The pacing is a little slower because it's just that kind of drama. So like you have to kind of give it time to breathe, but like it really builds and the emotional impact of it builds until you're like just crying your heart out for these people, even though it maintains this kind of restrained yearning for like large parts of the drama. But you know me, I love restrained yearning.
Yeah, me too.
Where there's like a lot of big emotions and the characters just like holding them in because they can't, you know, it's so good. It's so good.
That is so good.
Like they're both excellent actors, but I have to say,
I think they're a little bit better than excellent.
They're so good. And I think like performances like this where the actors are not expected to do a lot of big acting sometimes get underrated, but it's actually really hard to do restrained acting. It's much easier to do these like sort of big and actory, you know, kind of thing. Like if you ask, like if you
acting with a capital A.
Exactly. If you hear interviews of actors, they'll always say like, I'm always, you know, it's much harder to do less than to do more. And so like these two, and especially I will say Lee Sung-kyung like does such an amazing job here. She is really the heart of the show, and like you feel everything that she's feeling, even though like she hardly talks. She's not a very talkative person, and she's one of those people that just like holds everything inside except her anger, which comes out like broken glass, you know, everyone who's in the vicinity. But like you understand her so deeply that it never makes you dislike her, because she's very self-aware of that fact about herself. And she even like warns him. I think that in the first episode, she's like, you know, I can't even remember the exact line, but she's basically like, I speak really harshly in one of two situations. One is when I dislike the other person, and the other is like when I really love that person. So I'm just letting you know. just know that in advance. And like, of course, at that point, she's like, I hate you. So this is why I'm giving this warning. Of course, later on, he becomes part of the other category.
Do you think that actors who start their career playing, what do you call them? Like villainous characters actually have a better grounding when it comes to playing lead non-antagonist characters, like protagonists rather than antagonists?
Maybe it's that they're not, they don't feel the pressure to be likable because they've already been unlikable once. Maybe that's it. So you're not trying to, because I always sometimes wonder, and like obviously this is all like we can never know, it's all behind the scenes stuff, but like I sometimes wonder if people who have always played these like typical likable kind of perfect lead characters,
like you don't have to reach as deep. I mean, I don't know, I'm not an actor.
Yeah. And I wonder also if they feel like they can't really go beyond that, because then like what if they lose that image that people have of them that is like what made them fond of them in the first place? I don't know. I've heard people in interviews sometimes mention that, and I wonder if that's
really
part of it. It's like once you've been a villain, you've kind of broken out of that like box of like
and
correct
because that's
behavior.
A specific pipeline as well, isn't it? Like the villain to hero, actor you know, as an actor, regardless of where you start, if you've transitioned into villain roles and then make the crossing into a hero role, that's kind of, in some ways, like some actors become less interesting when they cross into the hero roles, whereas some of them, like, they add more depth and complexity to the character than is written for them. And
Absolutely.
I think Kim Young-kwang, Lee Sung-kyung are both definitely actors who do that. And they're both actors who are previous villains as well. So, or quasi-villains, if not like entirely villainous.
But I mean, I think Kim Young-kwang has had more.
He's had a longer career as a lead.
Yeah, and I think
guy.
he started. I don't think he's been in that many villain roles. I think he's done the anti-hero. I haven't seen White Christmas.
It's time for you to watch White Christmas.
Yeah, I know, it's like on my list, and it's one of those like I think I even like downloaded it and had it on my laptop for years, and I just like never watched it.
Because the other reason that I screamed earlier is I just realized this is like a mini White Christmas reunion with like Sung-joon and Kim Young-kwang, because there's this very specific group that came out of that drama. Half of them graduated into Sharp Flower Boy Band, and so like, you know, that just like that band of boys, like they would have been like in their teens or early 20s, probably early 20s at that point, but they have remained close friends, and that's like, it's really enjoyable to see people reunite like that. Like, you know, Lee Jung-suk and Kim Woo-bin as well, they're like a pair like that. Lee Min-ho and somebody else I can't remember right now. But like, you know, there are those famous friendships.
Yeah. I think the first time that I really like noticed him was in +9 Boys.
Oh,
like that
yeah,
was the first time actually. It was a terrible drama, but he was really good in it.
He's always really good in it. Everything he does.
He is. So, oh yeah, and he was in Can We Get Married too. But I watched like one episode of that and dropped it like a hot potato on fire. So
didn't watch that one. Oh no, I did watch an episode maybe, which is also a Sung-joon drama, right?
Yeah, it's the one where like Sungjoon and Jung Soo-min have this like extremely toxic relationship, and everyone in their family is like creating drama like right when they get engaged, like around their wedding. And I was like so stressed just by watching that one episode. I was like, I don't want these people to get married. I don't want to be around any of this like pre-wedding drama. Like I feel stressed. I'm not watching this.
Yeah, I think for me, like peak Kim Young-kwang is Lookout, which I think is known as The Guardians.
That's my absolute favorite performance.
But he's also great in stuff like Pinocchio. I think he was in. I didn't watch Secret Life of My Secretary.
He was really good in that. Yeah. He was very charming in Hello Me, but that wasn't really his drama. It was more. What's her name?
He always brings like lead. 300%.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
I just want to give like a quick shout out to the writer. Kim Gun doesn't have any other. I'm looking on my drama list. I don't really know anything else about this person, but she doesn't seem to have any other credits apart from this. So like amazing job. First, time headlining a script.
Yeah.
So well done. I'm like definitely going to be checking out this person's future work.
And is this a female director, Kim Ji-yeon? Sounds like it.
Sounds like it, yeah. And the director is also, this is her only credit. So I'm excited for them to do more things because I'm definitely gonna.
How is this drama doing in ratings, or how did it do in ratings?
I don't actually know how it did in ratings because it was originally a Disney Plus and Hulu drama, which the streaming stuff doesn't really.
No rating info, yeah.
Yeah, but I loved it. And it's got like really good reviews on my drama list, so I think it was like well received. Okay, but that's enough on that drama. Sorry, I ended up talking way longer than I meant to. I apologize.
Think we ended up talking way longer than we meant to on all of these.
Yes, we did.
So the next drama I want to talk about is quite an old drama at this point, but I watched it live and I feel old. This is Nine Times Time Travel. I don't know how.
Nine.
We just call it
travel?
9.
Yeah.
9 times 9. Let's just call it 81. So.
그때 난 너의 손을 놓지 말았어야 했다. 되돌릴 기회가 주어진다면 9번의 되돌릴 기회. 9.
This is a drama from 2013, which is one of the Sung Jae-jung projects that I class among the successful ones. Sung Jae-jung being that writer who we have talked about a lot. She wrote Memories of the Alhambra. She wrote W?
Yes.
Maybe. Hold on.
Yes, W.
Right. So she has a reputation around here of being that writer who sets up an amazing first half and then somehow fails to bring it home.
Right. But she also did Queen In Hyun's Man.
Oh, yes.
So and Yumi Cell season 1 and 2, which are both...
Yumi Cell seems like a sort of a departure from her previous heavy, the fantasy heavy premise, which is kind
Plus,
of...
those are also webtoon adaptations.
Right.
So she's working from a source material.
Yeah. And she had co-writers on Yumi Cell's as well, right?
Yeah, and that's actually the co-writer that she had on 9 times 9?
Yeah.
Whatever, 9. The same
9.
co-writer from 9 was also her co-writer on Yumi Cell season 1 and 2.
Yeah, I just noticed that as well, which I didn't realize at the time. I wonder if Queen In Hyun's Man also had a co-writer now. Let me go and check.
Not sure. So
the
co-writer, so the co-writer is Kim Yoon-ju, who did Find Me in Your Memory, Duel, Special Affairs Team 10, Coffee House.
So that's the introduction to the writer. So this isn't her first time handling time travel. She in Queen In Hyun's Man, that was also about a time traveling scholar from Joseon period who comes to the present day, and that was a drama from the year before this. So that was a 2012 drama. One of these days we're gonna rewatch that, and Boroma is gonna come and preside over that episode because it's like her number one drama of all time, and deservedly, because it's a perfect drama, and it's where her love of you Inna originates as well. So this is her second foray into time travel, and in this one you have the main character played by Lee Jin-wook who discovers these incense sticks that when you burn them, they take him 20 years into the past. And so what happens is...
Significantly, there are 9 of these sticks.
There are indeed, and hence the title.
Yes.
So basically... Oh, I don't even know how to summarize this. He goes to the past and like does things, and it changes his present. And the interesting thing is it does that thing with that sort of real-time timeline. So as things change in the past, things change in the present in parallel. So like the day and the hour that he goes back from like 2012/13, because it kind of starts at the very end of 2012, as in the timeline inside the drama. Like, so it has like tension from that whole being able to see what's changing as soon as you've done it. And because the burn time of an incense stick is not that long, so he has a really limited period.
So it's not that burning the incense sends him back in time. He has only the time that the incense is burning.
Exactly.
To be in the past.
Exactly.
Okay.
So like there's this whole like strategic element to his time traveling, which plays a very important part in the story. Basically, I've said basically too many times. Basically, he goes back, once he realizes what's going on, he has a goal of attempting to change particular things in the past or find out the truth about certain events in the past. Except when he does those things, they completely change his present timeline. And so then it's like it all becomes a big old mess, and it's like deliciously, delightfully, and awfully messy. And that's what keeps you watching. And I think I'm on episode 10. And strangely, even though I've already watched it, I've sort of gotten to that point where I'm scared to carry on watching because I'm afraid of all of the things that are going to happen. I've already been through this pain before. You know, this drama is the drama that forced me out of sort of K-drama lurkiness to actually participate in real-time fandom, because I couldn't deal with, like, I was having so many feelings. I needed to talk about them. So that you have 9 to thank for my long K-drama career.
Thank you, 9. Appreciate you for that, if nothing else. So I haven't seen 9, but it kind of reminds me of like a much lighter drama, which was originally a Japanese drama called Proposal Daisaksen, and it was adapted into a Korean drama.
The Yusenyo
Operation
drama.
Proposal. Yeah, a few years later.
Yeah.
I could not finish the Korean version because it was pretty bad, honestly. Although the soundtrack was great. I listened to those songs for many years.
That's how I feel about Rooftop Prince.
The Japanese version was like the similar dynamic, right? Where he like goes back in time to try to prevent the girl he loves from marrying their high school teacher.
Yeah.
Yes. And every time he goes back in time, he makes it worse. And then he has to like beg the person who allowed him to go back in time, like, can I please have one more chance? Every time he goes back, makes it worse. And so like, I mean, the journey is like, you kind of have to accept life as it is and try not to change it. I don't know if that's like a similar vibe here, but yeah, it just reminded me of that.
It is not a similar vibe here, but it does have that thing of there are things that will happen no matter what. That no matter how change
hard
them,
you try.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't change them, but you can change the things around them, and they can have really unexpected, unforeseen, and possibly quite devastating consequences for you. And
I just have one.
Go on.
Yeah, I just have one question. Is that like going back to this, 10 years later, and also having seen so many of the time travel dramas that you're basically an expert at this point. Like, do you recommend this? Is it a good time travel drama?
Do you know it is? But I also have to sort of provide a little caveat to that, which is Jo Yoon-hee, who plays the female lead, is kind of like that character who pulls the story to a standstill. Like the drama does not succeed in convincing you that you are really concerned about her.
You know, I haven't thought about Jo Yoon-hee for about 10 years, but that has always been my experience with her characters, unfortunately. Like, the exact description of like pulling the whole story to a standstill. Yeah,
if they had cast a better actor in this role, it could have been different. But then I also think, like, I'd say it's half and half. Like, the writing doesn't do much for her character, but she doesn't add anything to it either. She kind of almost is whiny and like juvenile, and you're just like so uninvested and so uninterested in her. And what I find a little odd and interesting is that at the time I didn't feel this way. At the time I obviously just ignored her and was invested in the main storyline. And I remember I tried to recommend it to a friend right back in 2013, and my friend was like, I just can't get into it because of the female lead. And then I was like, but you need to keep trying. And now, 10 years later, I'm like, oh, I get you. I get why you don't want to watch it because of her. Because she takes up quite a lot of screen time. She does, like, she is meant to give the main character his motivation in a lot of things. But at the same time, you're just like, I'm not buying what you're selling because you're not selling me something I want to buy. and that's a shame, but the rest of the drama is really, really good. Don't think of it as a romance. There's also this really wonderful bromance. It's not even a bromance. I feel like bromance trivializes the friendship between the two male characters, which is Sonu, who is Lee Jin-wook's character, and Young-hoon, who is played by the guy who is playing Evil Dad in Castaway Diva right now. So that's interesting to watch at the same time, because he's such a good friend. You also see, this is also the drama with baby Park Hyung-shik and baby Lee Kyung.
Oh, interesting.
They play the teen versions of the characters, and baby Park Hyung-shik, baby Lee Kyung. They're just really, they sell you this friendship and they sell you these characters really, really in a way that does outweigh, for me, it outweighs the sort of the static power of Jo Yoon-hee. So, and also the mechanics.
I just want to tell listeners that, like, you'll be able to hear this in the recording because it's not the Zoom recording, but in the Zoom recording, when Saya said baby Park Hyung-shik, it was so high pitched that the Zoom processing made it so I could barely hear her.
Oh, really?
You know how, like, processes everything down into like a hearable decibel.
So funny.
It was just like, it was like so high pitched that I couldn't even. I knew what you were saying, but I couldn't even hear you.
Oh, that's so funny. I did not know it did that.
He inspires you to such high pitchedness, which, like, fair. Baby Park Hyung-shik is a creature of magic.
He's an actor who's always, like, everything I've ever seen him in, he's always been so good. And I've also resented at times that how good he is as an actor is kind of overshadowed by, like, at this point, his idol career, because he was, in Dare at the time, and because he's just so pretty that I think
more than his idol career, which, let's be fair, was not very significant. Like, he wasn't in a big band or like a big group. It's more that he's, like, so unbelievably good looking that like people dismiss his acting talent. Because he's like magic, like he is. You look at him, you're like, you're not
a human.
Exactly. So then you're like, so people talk about that instead of being like, this person can really act.
Exactly. And he can really act. And, idol actors and just generally, like, beautiful people are often allowed to call it in just because, like, visual is sometimes
they can skate
held
by
over.
Without much talent because they are so beautiful.
And he has never done that. Like, I mean, clearly he has natural talent for acting because he's been good from the very first thing that you ever saw him in. At this time, I can't remember. Hold on, let me just have a quick look. Oh. So it turns out he had this very tiny guest role in Prosecutor Princess. But I think the first thing I saw him in is this. This is the first thing I saw him in. And then he goes on to do stuff like all the things everyone's heard of, but like the family drama, What Happens to My Family. He had that great role in Heirs with Crystal. It was with Crystal, right? They had that quite hilarious love line.
Yeah. I think I saw him first in What Happens to My Family.
I watched a few episodes of that, but then I just there was no reason for dropping it. I just didn't carry on watching it. But yeah, he's good in everything that he's done.
Sorry, not What Happens to My Family. My Husband Got a Family.
Is that the
which
same
is another
thing?
No, it's actually a different
it's
drama.
20 right. Yeah.
What Happens to My Family is Kajukiri Weide, which is like hard to translate to English. But it's like about
What's Up with My
siblings.
Family, I think.
What's Up with My
sense.
Family would probably be a little better. Yeah. But yeah, My Husband Got a Family is a very solid weekend drama. Like if you are into that kind of thing, very solid, very watchable.
But don't watch it for Park Hyung-shik.
No, because he's in
one
a single
episode.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. Yeah, I actually think that the first time I saw him was in Variety, not in dramas. But I liked him from Variety already. I can't remember what Variety show I saw him in, but that was kind of, I was like, whoa, this person is very charismatic and very good looking.
I'm trying to see what you might have seen him in. Healing Camp, did you watch that?
Probably one of his Immortal Songs episodes.
Yeah.
And
he was
also
in that.
Running Man. I definitely saw him in Running Man in 2010.
Was there a Hwarang episode of Running Man?
There was. Yeah.
Okay,
but
I definitely saw him in that. That was years later.
That was later.
2016.
But his first appearance in 2010, I saw him in that. Yeah. But he was on a lot of the shows that I was watching during this time, like Happy Together, You Heal, Sketchbook, Strongheart, Running Man, like a lot of these, like Immortal Songs too.
Hello Counselor.
Yeah. So like a bunch of these shows, like, so I was like just aware of him, not from his music, but just because he was like showing up a lot on these, variety shows. Yeah. So yeah.
Par for the course in the Idol.
Right.
career.
And then if you already know someone from Variety and then you see them in a drama, then you're like, that's how it works. That's how the marketing machine works. And you're like, I know this person. I like this person.
You never, like, when you see him in a role, you never sort of recall his other roles in that role. Like, he's very good at defining that one character that he's doing. Yeah. So,
but yeah, the first like actual full role that I saw him in was Heirs.
Yeah, he was really great in Heirs.
He was great. In that trash drama, he was amazing. Yeah.
Him and Crystal, she was really great in that.
She was also really great. Okay, we are getting off track.
I think we've got like one more drama left to talk about.
Yeah, like just really quick.
아빠? 임신? 네, 아니면 누구인데?
이 사람 보자마자 반했어. 네가 나빠다고! 이원 이렇게 된 거 공태경 씨가 저랑 제 아이예요.
내가 미쳤지. 결혼하자.
너 진짜 미쳤구나.
I started watching this drama called The Real Has Come, which is a literal title of the Korean title, which was 진짜가 나타났다, which just means like, I guess like the genuine article has arrived.
Yeah.
Which would have been a better title. This is just kind of very strange.
Yeah.
I know we complain a lot about K-drama titles not being more literal translations.
They just keep picking the wrong side.
Yeah, in this case, probably they could have done something else.
Yeah.
But basically, I saw the premise and I was like, oh, this sounds like totally up my alley. Basically, like, Baek Jin-hee plays this
Baek Jin-hee.
not an Ilta Kangsa. So like, in Crash Course in Romance, the male lead is like this top tutor at a hagwon. She's not the top, but she's like almost at the top. Like she's at this point in her career where like her career is like about to take off, and then her boyfriend, she finds out that he's cheating on her. She breaks up in a really horrible way, and at the same time that she's breaking up with her boyfriend at that same hotel, the male lead has also just broken up with his girlfriend because he has a very miserable family life and he doesn't want to get married. And he told his girlfriend that like up front. He's like, I don't want to get married. So are you still okay with dating me? Like, and she's like, oh yeah, that's totally fine. And then eventually she like falls in love with him. So she's like, but like, let's get married. And he's like, and she like proposes to him in a cafe in public, and she's a celebrity. So of course that's not gonna, be a good idea. So then,
did she do that like deliberately to manipulate him into saying yes, or
probably
just ill-judged?
I'm sure that at subconscious level, she knows that what she's doing is like going against their initial agreement. So she's like using this public setting as ammunition. I'm sure it doesn't come across as like consciously deliberate, but let's just say that subtext is there. So he's like, no, sorry, like I love you, but like I'm not getting married. And she's like, that just means you don't love me enough. And then she like makes a big scene and like storms off.
I mean, she's not wrong.
She's not wrong, but also like, what did you expect?
Yeah,
he already
exactly.
told
He
you
didn't
he
lie
want
to
get
you.
married.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like you can't really be mad about it. You can be sad, but like I don't know that you really have the right to be mad. Anyway, so he goes back to his car, but the female lead's ex-boyfriend has the exact same car as him, and she has like written all over his car with her red permanent marker that she uses to mark her papers. You're a cheater. Like just horrible stuff about how he's a cheater, blah, blah, blah. So then like his ex-girlfriend storms after him and she's like, are you cheating on me? She's like, is that the reason that you didn't want to get married? He's like, no, it wasn't. Like I've done this. I don't know what. So anyway, so then because she's a celebrity, that gets posted online. And now like everyone thinks that he's a two-timing horrible person. And in the midst of all this, obviously his like extremely conservative, very horrible family finds out and says, grandma's like, you have to get married.
Oh no.
I'm forcing you to get married to Mike's secretary, who's also like his childhood sweetheart. And he's like, no. And then she also like publicly announces their engagement at her like 90th birthday party. So now he's in that situation. And in the meantime, it's a lot of spoiling. All of this is 2 episodes.
No,
okay.
Yeah. Not spoiling. I said my blood is boiling.
Sorry.
Family nonsense.
I thought you said that this is a lot of
this
spoiling.
Is fine.
Okay,
that's fine.
You're never gonna watch this. It's a 50-episode family drama. I know you're not gonna watch.
You are
this,
tempting me, I have to say.
Okay, let me like finish explaining the premise because the premise, which we haven't even reached yet, is that This is why, like, after 2.5 episodes, I was like, this is really slow. This is why I'm like conflicted about continuing. But I do really love Baek Jin-hee, and she's like she's one of those female leads which like instantly you relate to her, like she just has that kind of likable and relatable presence. Like she just has that gift. And she's a good actor, so that doesn't, that doesn't hurt. But she finds out after all this drama has happened, she finds out that she's pregnant. And how she finds out that she's pregnant is she like faints when he's confronting her about the fact that she like graffitied all over his really expensive car. And she faints and he's like, oh my God. He takes her to the hospital and the doctor's like, congratulations, your wife is pregnant. He's like, A, this isn't my wife. B, who trained you? You're a horrible doctor. You just violated. He's like, you don't even know who I am. He's like, I'm not her husband. You just like spilled the patient's like private information.
Finally, someone said it.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's actually a doctor of obstetrology. Like he's a uterologist, which like I didn't know was a thing. I thought you're just like an OBGYN, but apparently he's like this specific kind of fertility doctor. So anyway, so they have become entangled in this way. And now she is like, should I have an abortion? Should I not? And he's like, I don't want to be involved in your business. Just like go away. Like, he's like, I'm sorry that like, this is happening to you, but also like just give me the money for the car to fix my car and like go away. So and then now he's dealing with this like family situation, which is like her fault because if she hadn't, drawn all over his car, he wouldn't be like framed as this like cheating bastard who now needs to get forcibly married to regain his standing in the family, which like he doesn't even want because he hates his family and he just like wants nothing to do with them.
And this is An Jae-hyun, right?
It's An Jae-hyun, who like
how is he in this?
He's fine. I mean, I've always just thought of him as like Gu-hae-san's husband.
Yeah, same.
I've never thought of him as like an actor of his own merit, which like so now I just think of him as Gu-hae-san's ex-husband. If you don't know who Gu-hae-san is, she was the female lead of the Korean Boys Over Flowers. So that's really all I know him from, I'll be honest. He's fine.
He was also in the You From Another Star, which has a official English title which I never can remember. You Who Came From the Stars? No.
You Who Came from the Stars, I think I think that's the official title. Yeah, and I think he was in Cinderella and the Four Knights.
Oh yeah,
but I didn't see that.
I didn't watch it though.
Yeah, I haven't. And he was also
he and
in.
Go-hae-sun were in Blood together, so that was their connection.
Oh, You're All Surrounded is really the drama that I've seen him in, where he had like.
Was he in that?
Role.
I watched that.
He was one of like the side character like students at the police academy, I think.
Oh, okay. I have no memory of this.
But like I don't really remember him, I'll be honest. He's not really.
He's not.
He hasn't made an impression on me.
Yeah.
Sorry, An Jae-hyun, but he's like perfectly fine in this.
Yeah.
He's competent. He does the job. You feel for him. Like I definitely felt sympathetic for him in his situation. My only I think this could be like a perfectly enjoyable kind of turn your brain off watch. And I like so the reason I started watching this, because I saw in the description that they end up getting a contract engagement. Yeah. We are like very far from getting to that point. I don't even know how. Well, I'm like 2.5 episodes in, no idea when this is actually going to happen.
It's a 50-episoder. Who knows when it's going to happen?
So the pacing is definitely even for a 50-episoder, it's slow.
Oh, really? How many episodes in are you?
2.5.
Oh, okay. Maybe it'll be at like episode 4 or something.
But, I have a weakness for this kind of contract relationship premise, so I might keep watching it.
I feel like now that we've got here, we can't leave this recording without just briefly mentioning Perfect Marriage Revenge. Is that bad? Shall we do it?
단 한 번만 더 기회를 주신다면 내 모든 걸 걸고 한이주, 너 그들에게 복수하겠습니다. 결혼 유라 말고 나랑 하면 어떻겠어요? 너 돌았어? 네, 더 건드리지 말라고요, 나를.
소도국을 이렇게 만든 사람 어떤 여잔지 궁금한데.
차연아예요. 이정희입니다.
Okay, so Perfect Marriage Revenge, I mean, I'm not even the person to be able to give you a summary, but basically it's kind of if you mashed up Reborn Rich with contract marriage, that the female lead is played by Jung Yoo-min, who, does look like Lee Min-jung, but is not Lee Min-jung. And the male lead is Sung-hoon, who I haven't seen since, like, I don't know, several years ago, but he can act. Boy can act now. I was very surprised.
I feel like he's been on a lot of really bad shows, and I kind of gave up on him, even though I really liked him in that family drama that first made him take off, where he was in with he was in Five Enough. That was Shin Hye-sun's like first kind of big breakout role. She had a romance with Sung-hoon in that, and it was like the cutest thing ever. Five Enough is also like a really solid. I'm trying to
which year? Oh yeah. Oh, so that was after Oh My Venus, which is what I think the only thing I've seen him in is Oh My Venus, I believe. I think Boromir has followed his career a bit more closely. He has a way of like picking all of the
he was in My Secret Romance. He was in I Picked Up a Star on the Road, which I have ranted at length about. He was in The Sound of Your Heart reboot. Right. He was in Level Up, which like I tried to watch for him and it was so bad that I just could not. He's been in a lot of really
So
bad
I Married
things.
an Anti-Fan. That was also one of his. Oh, Uri the Virgin. He was in that apparently. But this, like, Perfect Marriage Revenge, I was trying to fill the whole Twinkling Watermelon hole. And I saw the premise. I was like, oh, time travel. Oh, revenge. Let's do it. So the main character, Jung Yoo-min, who plays a character called Haniju, she's on the brink of getting married to her, like, boyfriend of a year or something. Turns out that he doesn't really love her and all sorts of, like, she has a very sad, poor orphan girl background. Backstory. She was adopted into this Chaebol family, but, she's treated very much as the adopted orphan.
She's their charity case.
Exactly. Then she dies at like the end of episode 1 or something. Not a spoiler. This is like the premise. And then she wakes up and finds herself like a year in the past or something, just before her wedding to Oh, it wasn't her boyfriend, it was her husband. Sorry, I've completely mangled this. Anyway, so she wakes up in the past before she's married this horrible guy and gets to decide what to do now. And she chooses revenge.
Nice.
I support this.
And she chooses revenge as a contract marriage. I don't know how I missed that this drama was coming out, but I'm like so excited to start this.
It's only 12 episodes. I'm surprised,
so excited.
actually.
Yeah, because I love Sung-hoon because he has this like, when he does a comedy and it's well written, he is so funny. But I think because he has this like particular type of face and body, he gets put into these like really
handsome man roles.
He gets put in those like cold a-hole male lead roles where like he doesn't have to do much except be a jerk. And I hate him in those roles. And I want him, and I like sometimes people are so good looking that like they don't want to do comedy anymore because it like dings their own image of themselves. Or maybe it's his agency. Like no shade to him. Maybe it's his agency that's not letting him take those roles. But like I don't know if this is that, but like I'm excited. I'm always willing to give another role a chance with Sung-hoon because I like him.
Yeah, you'll enjoy him in this. It's not really a comedy, but he is very engaging and likable. And
as long as he's not a jerk.
He's not.
As long as
definitively
he's not. Okay, that's like kind
not.
of my...
Yeah. Hopefully he's chosen the right project this time.
Yeah. I'm tired of seeing him being a jerk to a downtrodden female lead. I don't ever.
Yeah, he absolutely isn't. It's actually really satisfying because, like, lots of trash things happen. Like horrible things keep happening to the heroine, but because it's a revenge drama, you're being fed. Like, nobody is gonna get away with their evil.
That's really good to know. I actually really this is a genre mashup that I didn't know I wanted, but now that you're telling me about it, I'm like excited. Okay. On that note,
we will leave it here and go and watch this.
Let's leave it here and go and watch Perfect Marriage Revenge.
Yes. Okay, so
what an unwieldy title. I know it's like exactly what it is.
Literally, it's the literal translation. Yeah.
But okay, where can people find us?
They can find us on Twitter at Dramas Overflow. You can find me at Not Now Saya.
You can find me on Twitter at Anisa _. You can find us on Instagram at Dramas Overflow. No, sorry. You can find us on Instagram at dramasoverflowers_. You can email us at dramasoverflowers@gmail.com.
And our website is at dramasoverflowers.net. And you can sign up to our newsletter by clicking the link in the description or go on over to dramasoverflowers.substack.com and sign up there and read lots of cool reviews that Parma's been writing. Very productive woman.
Yes, yeah.
I just write them in my head. I'm sorry.
I have a lot of half-written drafts and outlines.
Tell me about that. Join my club.
I know, but I'm like one of the things that's on my list is like getting those out in the next 6 months. So we will see if that happens, but I will be doing my best.
What I did instead of writing is sit down with you and talk about them. So
at least it's going out in some form.
Yes.
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't cry.